And we are truly live in this episode
Yep.
of the Lakers Lounge. I'm Anthony Irwin, as always, joined on this wonderful Thursday afternoon by Aaron Larsoul. The reason I say truly live is normally Aaron and I will like throw together some topics and we will figure some stuff out and kind of like, I don't know, pencil some stuff in. This time we are like
record while we
legitimately
do that.
figuring out what we're going to be talking
No
about on
idea.
the air.
But we record it. To be fair, we record while we're figuring it out. It's not like we talk about this the night before and,
Yeah.
we get talking points prepared. We just
Yeah,
figure
no.
it out for like 3 minutes before we start, and that part is recorded. That's usually the best part of the show. So this is going to be great.
All right. So, a couple things that like crossed my timeline right as we were getting ready to go is the notion that like James Harden gets to like it's owed to James Harden to send him to a destination that he wants to go to, right?
That was actually a take people had on your timeline.
Yeah, I saw.
You need to get your timeline together, brother.
Yeah, well, it's more of like a reply or a mention or whatever, which is out of my control. But like,
Yeah.
but so that's going to be something that I want to talk about. The notion that like one thing I thought about a lot over the weekend and talking with a lot of people from across the league is like we keep on thinking of labor versus management as players versus owners, right? And at its simplest form, that is what it is, right? That is actually how this all goes down. But there are rooms.
Look, see, we're live. I don't even have my light on. My beauty light. There we go.
I'm not even positive you're coming in through your mic, but whatever. We'll figure that out. But we are we think of things as black and white a lot of times. And in this case, like the black and white version of the conversation is professional owners of professional teams and players that represent those professional teams, and there is no room for nuance beyond it. And I'm here to say that no, that isn't actually how this should operate, because the undrafted rookie does not have the same amount of leverage that a long-standing NBA superstar has. And in this star empowerment, we call it player empowerment, but in this like star empowerment era, you have players who are wielding power that moves coaches and teammates and GMs and executives like all over the league. And like I don't know, they don't seem to me to like the NBA stars, to be honest. Like if I'm going to keep it 100 here, they feel more like management at this point than labor. That and like in the case of somebody like LeBron's,
blurred,
in the case of LeBron,
because of how they not only direct where they will play, but they also tend to have an outsized impact on the roster moves that their team makes. So yeah, I think I can see where the line is blurred.
Yeah, and so anyway, that was something that I was talking to a lot of people about in Vegas. Is like and this was a very popular take among team personnel, as I'm sure people aren't necessarily all that surprised to find out. But yeah, you do need to show please show the yellow in that hat, because like you can't just wear green to stuff.
I very specifically on All Access last night did not wear the Kelly green.
Yeah,
hat, which is my favorite, because I gotta get these. I gotta get them off while I can until they go to Vegas. But then I remembered the Lakers lost to the Celtics. We did a post-game show last night. So I definitely did not wear the Kelly green hat. I wore my mom's Cal hat with the sparkly blue Cal hat. But this is dark enough. This doesn't come across as a Celtics hat. No, I'm going to wear it how I want to wear it.
It's just green, man. Like Jen or Avery the other day said her favorite color is green. And I was like, no, it's not.
Uh-oh. I'm drinking a green Spindrift too. Uh-oh.
And you said your throat was bugging you. So not a surprise. So anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about like the dynamics at play there with, and one thing that I've really noticed is, this current generation of players that like were the faces of player empowerment or star empowerment, finding out that because they moved all over the league, they don't have as much power at this stage of their careers as other players who have asked out at this point. So That's going to be something we talk about. I do want to start with like Lakers basketball though, because this is a Lakers show.
Sure. And by the way, everybody's timeline has been a disaster exactly the last 4 days, but continue.
Yeah. But we did a show yesterday with Harrison. The second part of which was called Anthony Can't Stop Talking About Max Christie.
I haven't listened yet, but there was some difficulty with Harrison and his wife. There was a little like there was. Does he love Max Christie? Does he love Max Christie more than
behind
me?
The wheel? Behind the wheel, I think he does. I think he does. Okay. But yeah, I want to talk about some of the young guys that we have here. Darvin Ham has been, spitting hot fire like Dylon in a podcast that he did with Mark Stein and Chris Haynes. In the This League Uncut podcast.
That's correct. Yeah. Hashtag This League Uncut. Or maybe it's This League hashtag Uncut.
That's a really busy title. But anyway, so
it's a good show.
Yeah, we are. It is. But there's some stuff there from Darvin that we want to talk about. But yeah, I want to start with I want to start with Christie with you because one thing that I'll do is I'll latch on to negative points and I'll talk about them over and over and over and over and over again. And the audience will get really sick of it. Yeah. In this case, I'm going to latch on to a positive thing.
Okay.
A positive take that, like, in this case, I'm still, I think, a part of the minority in how positive I am about this, in my, like, real belief in this prospect. I have not been this excited about a young Lakers player since Kobe. Like,
come on, wait a second.
Yeah. Well, here's my thing.
Wait a second.
Here's my thing.
Like
here's
my
thing.
All the second draft picks.
Let me explain. Okay. Let me explain.
Please.
The reason it's not that I think he's the most talented Lakers prospect since Kobe, because that isn't the case, right?
No, you're talking most excited about him. Okay.
I've been most excited about him, and like the biggest part of this is I think that because Jalen Rose, I think the smartest thing Jalen Rose ever said is like a lot of times situation decides career more than talent does, right? And where a player gets drafted and where that organization is when that player gets drafted is a big part of what, how that player's career plays out.
Talent, but yes, it's a big deal.
Yeah. And in this case, I think Christie is in like the perfect spot. And I think he has a really good head on his shoulders to succeed in this specific situation. And the talent is obviously there. Offensively, super clean player. Defensively, I think he really gets after it. But the notion that like the Lakers have a role that he is kind of uniquely suited to fill on this roster. He's a longer two, something that the Lakers don't really have. A longer, more athletic two. He can shoot. Which is going to help him look really good in LeBron AD lineups. He can play with all three of the Lakers, all three of the rotation players ahead of him in terms of guards, right? He can play with Vincent. He could play with Reeves. He could play with D'Lo. So when I say I'm really excited about this guy, it's that it's him, the player. I'm really excited about him, the player. And the strides that he's taken forward since we first saw him, which it's been a steady and very noticeable line of improvement here from Christie since we very first saw him. But also it's the situation and how equipped he is to succeed in the situation. That's why when I say I think we're going to get some momentum, it's going to be a really popular take from people over the course of the season to kind of wonder out loud, does it make some sense for this guy to maybe get some starts here and there? We're going to really, there's going to be a real push for his role to expand. And yeah, I thought, it's kind of tough with second overall picks and first overall picks because the hopes and dreams of an organization are attached to that player and only that player. But in this case, Christie can grow into this role. He has already grown into this role, as we've seen from his time as a burgeoning rookie to now. And yeah, like you watch him step into these games playing against like legit talent in some of these cases. Brandon Miller's a second overall pick. I thought Christie looked like noticeably better than he did out there. Um, I just I'm
Unfortunately for Miller, that has not been a high bar.
That's fair.
This
That's
summer
fair.
league thus far.
But like I don't know. Like what do you when I frame it that way, when I put all of those things together and I say that is why this guy I am more confident in Christie succeeding than just about any other prospect since Kobe. Which remember with Kobe, he was a later pick. He was what, the 13th over, he was selected
Kobe was
13th and then
13th.
traded for he was stepping onto a team with Shaq, right? And role players there that were going to let him grow into a role, and he eventually did. And in this case, I think it's a lot of the same stuff. I think Christie is really stepping into a situation here where he is being given the tools to succeed in ways that, like a lot of the other second overall picks that the Lakers had, didn't.
I mean, there's a lot of names. I mean, what you're saying makes some sense. It's kind of cautionary. But like, there's a lot of names. Like, I think there's reason to be optimistic about Max. But there is like, I think we need to tone it down a tiny bit. I think we need to pull it, rein
Look at
it
you,
in.
hater. Look at you, hater.
No, not about excitement about Max. No, not Max excitement.
If you were an SNL character,
I do think we need to
which
rein
one you
that
would
in
be.
a tiny bit, which I'll get to for a second.
You'd be Phil Hader.
That's a lot of names between now and when Kobe was drafted to say this is the guy you're like Lakers basketball very well among among the people I spend time with, talk to. Like you're I don't know what percentile you are, but you're like certainly above average, and that includes like real Lakers fans and people that do this for a living. So I think it's a little hyperbolic to say this. I mean, and look, your reasons are your reasons and your thoughts are your thoughts. But the guy you're most excited about, young guy you're excited about since Kobe, seems a little probably not accurate. But look, you feel how you feel. But there's a lot of guys between now and then, Bynum and Julius and Lonzo and Kuz, who was even better than Max at Summer League his first year. Josh
He was
Hart,
like 7 years older than Max is. Kuz was old.
Kuz was not old.
Kuz could rent a car and not pay the extra fee.
That's gonna be one of those. It's gonna be one of those shows I see. So, look, I think there's a lot to like about Max. I agree that this role is quite good for him, and he is in a good situation. He's got some great guys to learn from. Even Austin about. Because like Austin was undrafted, Max was certainly more
35th.
talented, but like a second round pick, right? So the like ability to grind and make it, that like nobody better to learn from at a similar position, similar size. I think Max is more gifted, but it's somebody like Austin's a good dude for him to learn from. There's nobody better to learn from, and LeBron really likes Max. There's nobody better to learn from than LeBron about what to do in the NBA, how to make it work, what you need to do to succeed, all of those kind of things. There was I think it was Josiah and Gil's show. I don't remember what it's called, but I should. That's not good because Josiah is one of our guys.
Yeah.
And Zion said he was kind of on a live version of the show. I think I don't know if he was scheduled to be, he kind of just walked up on stage strangely. And they were asking him, kind of pointed questions about getting in shape and all that kind of stuff. And he said,
no chill with Gilbert Arenas.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you. that they did a live show in Vegas at Blue Wire, I believe. So shout out Lakers Lounge and Blue Wire and all of our other friends that are at Blue Wire. And he said that like he basically came to the point that said like I need to start, or I've started taking advice from the older guys, as far as how to do this, right? Get in shape and diet and all of this stuff, like how the NBA works. And he said, like, LeBron set out the blueprint. So that's a long way of saying, like, that's another person, obviously, that Max. So I agree with that Max can learn from. I agree with that about the situation. I think that it's not that I think. It's just that I would caution everybody, not you specifically. I would caution everyone that this is summer league.
Sure.
And Max looked overwhelmed. He didn't do much in summer league last year, and he looked kind of overwhelmed most of the time in the NBA last year.
Oh, see, I disagree.
No. You're not going to disagree, because here's my point. He didn't look overwhelmed. Like a lot of guys, when they looked overwhelmed, look like they don't know what they're doing, and that was never Max. Max never looked overwhelmed by the moment. Max looked overwhelmed by the size and physicality and speed and everything. Max looked not ready to. He didn't look ready to play in the NBA last year. And he's playing against a bunch of guys that aren't NBA players and don't look ready to play in the NBA. If you look at the Lakers roster, Max and Cole, I think, are the only two guys that are not rookies. Everybody else on the list is rookie. Now, some of them are older than Max, to your point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's some of the guys in summer league. There's some older guys in summer league, but for the most part, he's not playing against NBA players. And the NBA players he is playing against are like him last year, where this is just kind of all overwhelming to them. I mean, you and I watched, or maybe you didn't. I don't know if you were there, but a lot of us watched Wemby's first game, right? And he just looked like completely overwhelmed, shell-shocked and overwhelmed and not ready. He was much better in his second game. So here's what I would say about Summer League. And Max has looked really good. Max has looked very, very good. And I do think he's going to be a rotation guy for the Lakers this year. Does that mean like an every night rotation guy? It's kind of yet to be seen whether that means 8 minutes or 12 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes. But I do think he's going to play every night, at least at the beginning of the year, unless it looks like, he's doesn't belong. But it's summer league. I mean, all right. He's looked good. He's looked good, maybe even very good. And I do like that he has looked good in the ways that the Lakers possibly can use him. And I think that he has taken reps doing things he hasn't been all that comfortable with, just to try to expand his game, handling the ball, running pick and roll, all that kind of stuff. My thoughts on Summer League is, if you look great, that's a good sign and it might matter. If you look good, that's fine, and that probably doesn't matter, but it might. Yeah. If you look bad, that matters.
That matters.
I think the only thing that matters in Summer League is if you look bad. I mean, I'd rather have, it's great if you look like Max has not looked like one of the guys that's just too good for Summer League. He's been one of the better players, but like Jabari Smith just looks too good for Summer League. Who else? There's been a couple other guys that just like don't belong. They just look too good. Yeah. I do think Max has been good, but like there's been a lot of guys between Kobe and Max. If this is the dude, hey, look, if you're most excited about him, then fine. But like that seems hyperbolic. Feels hyperbolic.
I totally grant that it seems and feels hyperbolic. It is hyperbolic. Like it is literally the word most is there, which therefore makes it inherently hyperbolic. But again, what I just keep thinking is, man, this guy is just so well equipped to do what the Lakers are asking him to do. Like what I thought when you were talking about like he's taking reps, where I thought you were going is that the Lakers they're mixing in some stuff that like he isn't necessarily as comfortable doing, right? As equipped to do with some of the on-ball creativity stuff. Yep. But they also have him really focusing, because they have Jalen Hood-Schifino out there. They have him focusing on stuff that he's going to be doing next year.
No, yeah, right? Absolutely. And that is purposeful. I said this on our show last night, but that is purposeful. And shout out to the Lakers. This is what good teams do. You have a plan for everybody.
Yeah.
And some of it is getting guys reps like Max, getting guys on ball reps when, to try to expand that portion of their game, because you're not going to do that in the NBA, and you want to do that against live bullets, right? You want to have a chance to expand those things. But a lot of those things that I mentioned this on Twitter last night that I really liked from Max was him, like Boston was playing the zone a ton, and him getting in the middle of the zone and making pull-up jumpers there, whether he was on the ball or off the ball, some cutting and all that kind of stuff. You do want to put guys in a role where this is the thing that they're going to do. You want to be able to see something that will say that you want to get guys reps too, doing something that they're going to do if they are able to play on the big club. It's why Jalen Hood-Schifino basically is every time he touches the ball, it's a pick and roll basically, because if he's going to play for the Lakers, that's what he's going to do. So you do want to get him. You do want to get reps doing that. Maxwell Lewis, who hasn't been doing much of anything, or didn't last night. It's a transition for guys like that. And this was true of Max also. It's a transition for guys like that. Every dude in high school is the best dude in high school. When they go to college, maybe you're not the best dude anymore. So your role, you have to figure out how to get on the floor with a different role. Every dude in college is the best dude at school. And when you get to the NBA, unless you're like a top 5 pick, a top 10 pick, definitely, you're not going to be able to do those things that you did in college. So I think it is important, for Maxwell Lewis, it is important for him he had the ball all the time in college. You're not getting the ball. So you have to figure out ways to, people are saying, why don't they run anything for Maxwell Lewis and fire Darvin Ham because he doesn't have the guys doing stuff for Maxwell Lewis where they should be running plays for him. Well, they're not going to be running plays for him with the Lakers. So he has to figure out a way to contribute doing the things that he may get a chance to do with the big club. So all of this is to say, yes, I do think that Max is going to have a role, but I think we need to pump the brakes. I'm glass half empty, dude. What is going on? I do think he's going to play, and I do.
How the turns have tabled.
Yes, and I don't know if I don't know. You and I haven't talked about this, but friend of the show, George Sedano, came up to me it was before Sunday. Yeah, it was before Sunday's Lakers game, to ask me about Max. And
you know why?
What?
You know why?
Yeah, because he is also George is Max is George's favorite Lakers prospect since Kobe. Also,
no. So
did you?
I don't know when it was. I don't know when it was that you bumped into George. I was
right before,
tweeting out the link
before the Lakers game Sunday, so that would be noon
Sunday. All right, so I flew in. I wanted to get there Friday evening and hustle over to the arena, but I wasn't able to do that. Shouts to American Airlines for just never ever having their shit together. But so I wound up getting into my hotel room at like 3 a.m. That was an entire ordeal unto itself. And then I went down for breakfast on Saturday morning, and there at the breakfast spots will have like the breakfast bar there that like looks out at the cooks who were doing their thing. So it's not like an actual bar. I don't want to make it look like George was at a bar when I bumped into him.
I mean,
he was because he was about to work. So I want to be clear at like what kind of bar George was at. And also George is like legitimately one of my favorite people in the world. So I want to make sure I paint this in the absolute perfect light. Mm-hmm. So I went to breakfast with some other guys, and I watched George walk in, and I finished my food, and I went up there and I talked to him briefly there at the breakfast bar. And the first thing I told, like after like the how are you doing, how's the family stuff, all that, the first thing I talked to him about was Max. It was because while I was stuck in Dallas Fort Worth airport,
I was going to say I know you flew out of Dallas if he was American.
No, I flew out of Austin, and I was supposed to fly to Phoenix, but they screwed up my flight was delayed 4 times, so I wound up having to fly to Dallas first, and then flew from Dallas to Vegas. But I flew to while I was there at a Pizza Hut, which again, American Airlines made me eat Pizza Hut.
Oh, which you would never
Wrong.
do, which you would never do otherwise.
Their breadsticks are fire. Their pizza sucks.
You would never stoop so low as to eat Pizza Hut otherwise.
No, their breadsticks. I will legitimately. I will speak up for Pizza Hut's breadsticks, but their everything else sucks. I hope they're not a sponsor. And then, so I was sitting there and I was watching Max, and there were some other people there who were on their way to Vegas too, like clearly for the basketball. And we were kind of talking. We were talking about it while we were watching, and Max was doing his thing, and I saw George the next morning. Very first thing I talked to him about basketball wise was Max, and I was just like, I'm all in. I'm all in on this guy. And he's like, I'm legit curious. You were never this excited. Harrison too. Everybody that I'm talking to is like, you are never this excited about anything. Like it was just like you were never happy about anything. What is going on here? And so like I told him, like, just walk around the gym and ask some scouts and stuff about this guy, because he's really effing good, and I think he's really effing good in ways that like impact winning. It's not just like Taylor Horton Tucker when he was like good and exciting. He was good and exciting, but in ways that I always thought that he would never be good enough to spend as much time on the ball as he needed to spend on the ball on a good team, right? Whereas like Max doesn't need to be on the ball on offense. He can catch and shoot. Defensively, he can rotate and he can spend time on the ball. He's so much more exciting than the heavy usage prospects to me. And yeah, what are you nervous about? What
No. It's not nervous. I just have a follow-up question for you, and then I will give you credit for why George Sedano was asking me questions about Max. I will give you credit about that, and I will praise Max here in a second with the end of this story. But I have a little question for you, if I may be so bold.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Negativity turned positivity. How do you reconcile this love affair for Max, and how wonderfully well you feel that he will fit into his role as a fourth guard, is what I'm understanding you to be saying. How do you reconcile that with, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago, your sky is falling. What happens if Max is your backup shooting guard? You're in trouble. I wonder how you reconcile such things, or maybe the last couple weeks of seeing him in summer league has raised your opinion of him.
All right, so I
would say that's a fair question.
I think it is. I
sound like Stephen
I agree.
What is that?
The unmitigated gall. Like, it's just the way he says that phrase is my favorite thing. You have the temerity. Like, but so my
mom would call that chutzpah.
But so I still think there is risk involved for all of the stuff that you have brought to this conversation, right? This is just summer league. He is just 20 years old. Even Pete was sitting there telling me, like, easy with this Max Christie stuff, because even I was in on Max before I went to Vegas and watched him, right?
I mean, clearly,
yeah.
Per your conversation with people at the airport, and then
the very first
George
morning,
before you'd seen him play.
No, I watched him play the first game at the airport, and then
but not in person. That's different in person.
Right. But so I think there is still risk involved here, and I do think, like, if this winds up being, the type of season the player has after what you consider a good, not necessarily great summer league, which I kind of sort of disagree with, but fine. But if Max is like a typical,
you think he's been great?
I think so. I think
every time to be fair, Colin Castleton leads the team in every statistical category, basically. So, like, he's been good.
Well, but that's because, like, Colin Castleton gets to clean up the 35 misses that, like, the Maxwell Lewises and the Shafinos of the world are hoisting upon us. But like, I think And also, like, Castleton has nobody else at his position. The other big that they have is not very good. So, but I think that there can still be risk. There is still risk involved with not having a player like Max on the roster. That makes me nervous still.
This is a winding
because
road you've taken us on. Okay.
it is. It is. Well, look, you know me. I like the gray areas, right? And I think in this case, I like that Max has tools that the Lakers really need. I wish he wasn't the only person who had them on the roster.
Okay,
At
so
his size.
my follow up to that is like, if he's the Lakers' fourth guard and you are as excited about him as you are, like you're looking at this. This is okay. So this is where I think it is useful to take a broader view, because this comes up all the time when you bitch and moan about how the Lakers operate, and I tell you, like, I get that you're a Lakers fan and you care about the Lakers, but this is not like a uniquely Lakers thing. This is just how the league is. Like in this case, how many teams have better fourth options? How many teams have better fourth guards than Max, or guys that like how good you expect Max to be, or the situation that Max is in? Like you're saying, like, oh, what happens if JH? Like people play rookie, people draft guys 17th, like JJ, like those guys usually play. Like the league, especially now when everybody needs contributors at the minimum, or rookie on rookie deals in order to escape, tax hell and second apron hell. Like this is what the league is. There's not like, I understand that you only look at things, not only, but you primarily look at things through a Lakers lens and you have fear about certain things, but like this is what the league is. Like, of course, Max is going to play. This is why Max is here. He's here to be a backup guard. This is why the Lakers chose him last year, so he could be a backup guard at some point.
Yeah. All right. To which all of that, like, it's like Avery will always ask when we go to the pool, why that kid isn't wearing her floaties. Why do I have to wear my floaties?
Yeah, sure. Like if your friends jump off a bridge, right? You only care about your kid. You only care about your team. I understand.
Yeah. Well, in my analysis, like
the Lakers don't get me wrong. The Lakers don't get to operate like with a different CBA than everybody else. They don't get to operate with different team building rules than everybody else. This is the way it works.
Yeah, but like, I mean, for the sake of your and my conversations on the air, you and I aren't going to talk about, like, a lot of the other popular take that I was throwing out there a bunch is that I think the Celtics got worse this year. And I loved poking and prodding my friends who cover or work for the Celtics, because it's like,
you have Celtics friends.
Yeah, I mean,
thank you for having me on for the last time.
But like, I have actually one of my best friends out here is a Celtics fan. People make bad decisions all the time, and you got to look past some of those bad decisions. So
Sedano, so you encouraged Sedano to take a deeper look into Max because of how excited you were about him, and so he was doing sideline for the Lakers game on Sunday. So he came up to me on Sunday. He and I are friends, and he said, about Max and the weight that he had gained and that what he looked like and all that kind of stuff. And I said I was talking to Ed.
And it's practical weight, by the way, with him. Like he's using that weight that he gained.
I agree with you.
It's not popcorn muscles.
He looks noticeably bigger.
He
looks a tick more athletic. And so I said, I was standing next to Ed Street, who's our head strength coach. Shout out Ed, who's a really good friend of mine, who is the dude that got my knee right when I ripped my knee up on the way to a Lakers game and still went and dislocated my knee and ruptured my patella tendon. And he was the one that got me, taken care of at the game, and then made sure that our Lakers team doctors took care of me and all that, and is helping me get right with my rehabilitation. So shout out him and never mind. I was going to say something I shouldn't say. I was going to shout out somebody else that's connected with him that I was going to, never mind. That would not be good. I'm not going to say that. Hennessy is delicious.
Yeah.
Unnamed cognac. So anyway, but I happened to be standing right next to Ed when he came up to me, and I said, "This is the dude you should be talking to," because I'm trying to get Ed some love on the air, right? I get him a shout
Yeah.
out on the air. And so I introduced Ed and George, and I said, "This is the dude you should talk about. I mean, if you really want to know about Max getting bigger and stronger, this is the exact person you should be talking to." And so Jorge asked Ed about it, and Ed will not take credit for anything. He says, it's a lot is my assistant, strength coach, and Max.
Aaron.
No, I am certainly not that.
He's like, how do we make sure Max avoids Aaron's body looking like that? That's like our.
To be fair, I've had a million surgeries and I'm old. So, yeah. But yes, I no longer have the body of an athlete. I'm working on it though. I'm getting back.
No, you look good, man. It was my first time seeing you in a minute. You look like you've lost a bunch of weight since.
Oh no, that is me like plus 15. How you saw me, because it has been a rough couple of weeks, especially since my knee. I haven't been able to do much. But anyway, so we're getting back at it.
Remember, last time I saw you was like 3 years ago.
That's also fair. Yeah, no, I've lost weight since then. But
yeah,
this is not my peak fighting weight. Anyway, and so Ed like kind of deflects a lot of credit, but the one thing he said, I'm like, man, you should take a little credit. I want you to get a shout on the air. It's good. It's good for people to hear your name, right? In positive things publicly, as far as you're standing with the team and you're standing around the league and all that. So I'm trying to get him, I'm trying to get him a little love on the air. And he says like, yes, sure, but I hate taking credit for stuff like this. And I say, okay, I understand that. And the one thing he said is like, he was telling George about how like dedicated Max is, and he's always willing to like work and all that. And the one thing he said about it was like, yeah, like I put the plan together and, whatever. And I'm helpful and I know what I'm doing, but I've never lifted not one weight for anybody.
Yeah.
Right? Like he can't do it for them. And Max has busted his ass, like really putting the work in, the actual work in, all the stuff that you don't see. And that's true of his game also. He turned himself into a pretty good shooter last year in the G League. Pretty good, not great. He couldn't shoot at all in college. So it's more than just his body, his development of his game and working with Phil and all that kind of stuff. So shout out to Max. I do think he's going to take a step forward. I'm not sure I'm ready to give him most improved player like you are, but I do think he's going to be a rotation guy, and I do think he's going to be useful. I'm just kind of on the Pete side of this. Let's temper expectations a little. Because then you get to, if you set it up this way, as you have, then if he doesn't meet those expectations, you get to be very disappointed.
No, I mean, because at the end of the day, he is only 20, and this team has title aspirations. And like I said earlier, it does make me a little nervous that a team with title aspirations are potentially looking at somebody like Max Christie, and even more.
Again, like this is what it is. Like Christian Brown had to play in the finals last year for the Nuggets.
And trust me, I have
by the way, they're going to be relying on him and Peyton Watson this year, and they have aspirations, right?
And that's something that
like the Warriors, like Jordan Poole played a bunch, and he was young. He played a bunch in the finals. Jonathan Kuminga played here and there. Moses Moody was starting playoff game. Like this is what it is.
Well, sure, but all right, in all of those cases, let's go case by case that you mentioned. Christian Brown played an extremely narrow role in the finals, and now is going to be stepping into a broader role this year. And it's something that Denver, friends of mine who cover the Nuggets, are nervous about. Is this notion
Watson
that
more so because he didn't really play it. They love him, but he didn't play at all last year.
Right.
They're going to need him this year.
And it's something that when you swap out Bruce Brown and Jeff Green for Christian Brown and Peyton Watson, something
more
that
Peyton Watson and more Christian Brown, because Christian Brown was already playing when they had those two guys.
Yeah. And then for who else did you mention? Jordan Poole, right? Jordan Poole played really well in for a team that won the championship, got paid, and then was terrible the following year, and then was a big part of why they didn't win the championship because of how terrible he played.
Absolutely. My point is draft picks and rookie contract guys play on finals teams. They do. They just teams that win the title. They play. You have to. And
I'm saying that usually, like, all right, so those guys do play, but there are parachutes in place in case those guys aren't ready, right? The Christian Brown succeeded in the role that he was in because they had Bruce Brown to take the more
Right.
important
Right.
minutes, you know,
Sure. Sure.
and like, you look at the Lakers roster right now. Austin Reeves played really well in last year's playoffs. Gabe Vincent played really well in last year's playoffs. D'Angelo Russell was a disaster the last time we saw him. So if like
Mhm.
there isn't necessarily like the extra layers here if Christie isn't really ready for that moment, especially given his skill set. Like there is nobody on the Lakers roster defensively with his skill set right now. Nobody. And that makes me a little nervous, you know. Even given how excited I am to watch this guy play, it makes me nervous that he's like the only 6'5" ish guy who can move his feet a little bit.
I mean,
Gabe
Vando can move
Vincent,
his feet and guard point guards.
yeah, yeah, but like he also got played off of the court last year, right? In the playoffs. So like and we'll see. And like by the way, like Vando makes me really excited that like every time I see his like highlights of what he's working on in the off season, and every time I talk to people who are kind of monitoring these guys' workouts, they're all saying how like this guy is like extremely dedicated to the things that got him off of the court in last year's playoffs. Was the fact that he took like a beat too long to make decisions and couldn't finish and stuff like that. Like those are things that he's really working on this year, and we'll see if that is actually used in practice. So like I think
Unless you're the 2017 Warriors, every roster has like
yeah.
slight
And
little potholes and deficiencies. There's like
yeah,
that's what it is.
and like there's still time here for the
Look at this.
Lakers.
I've turned you back to the dark side.
Yeah, I know.
Now you're like, I don't know if Max can do it. I don't
No, no,
know.
no. I really honestly think he can. But if he doesn't, it wouldn't exactly shock me either because he's a 20-year-old 35th overall pick, um and we'll see. And the thing that I think my least popular take this offseason is that I would have wanted to keep one of Lonnie or Beasley on the roster, preferably Lonnie because he can play a little bit defensively. I would have preferred to keep Lonnie on at like $5-ish million to be that parachute or to allow Christie to come along at the pace that like a 35th overall pick normally comes along at. But he isn't on the roster, and now it kind of forces Christie into having to be ready. And
No,
and
that's not. But that's like bordering, not impossible, but that's bordering on. That's problematic. Giving Lonnie $5 million is problematic. One, because he's a minimum guy, clearly again.
okay.
And giving him, and if he wanted the minimum, he could have come back. He chose a different place, which he is well within his rights to do. And giving him $5 million gives you hard cap problems, unless you don't want to use the non-taxpayer, or use all of it, and you don't use the biannual. Keeping him at $5 million that's trouble, because then you don't have much room. Then you're running.
They'd have another four between them and the hard cap if they would have done
yes,
that. Depending on what they do here.
That's not a lot of room to operate during the year, though. Having $4 million to operate during the year is scary.
I mean, the bigger thing is that like now you're in the tax. Like if you do that, you are definitely in the tax, and if you don't do that, the Lakers can avoid the tax. Like we can be honest, and we could say like which numbers come in at different in different importances here. I want to talk about the Dame and Harden situation here.
Okay.
Right. And we are currently in yet another stalemate with both situations. And, Daryl Morey is doing whatever he can to leak out there to anybody who will listen. Actually, it's looking like the Sixers might just keep Harden, and Joe Cronin is going out there giving interviews saying that if it takes months, it takes months to get the right deal for Dame.
Yep. Well, also saying, I do admit that I and the organization, it's not really him because he hasn't had much time there, but I and the organization failed him, like, building a winner around him, which was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, again, like you're talking about, like the person who really failed him was O'Shea, right?
Correct. Oh,
And I think
we can rip that dude. Oh, I love.
and I
I
actually
love
think
that. Let's rip
the
that dude.
person who has really skated, the person who has really skated in all of these conversations is Jody Allen, because she she took over ownership of the team after Paul Allen passed away, and took over ownership of a team that like everybody's just like waiting for her to sell,
Hmm.
and her like resistance to sell, while Phil Knight has just been like openly saying, "Yeah, I would love to." The guy who owns Nike and is like a Portland guy would
Yeah,
be, you know, invested
he's a
beyond
union
dollar
guy,
for
University of
dollar.
Oregon. Yeah. Um.
Yeah, but like
So
I don't think all of this would have gotten as ugly as it's gotten had Jody Allen just sold. Like just there'd
maybe
be
not.
more
Although
direction here.
she is like not gotten in the way of stuff and has provided resources. So I do think there's a team building, or there has been a team building problem. This is like kind of fascinating. One of the things that, obviously I used to live there and work for the team and such. So I maybe have a little insight into this. Um, I think one of the reasons she hasn't sold is because basically the guy that runs the team, um, Bert Cole, I think is his name. Yeah, that's his name. He basically runs the team. Like Jody Allen doesn't do anything. She just writes checks and gets out of the way, which is which is the best thing an owner can do. Basically, is just say, "Hey, y'all know, y'all got this. Y'all know better than I do what to do. I'm not a basketball person. Y'all got it."
Yeah.
So she's done a good job of that. The non-selling stuff is because Bert, who was Paul's, her brother's roommate, college roommate, I believe, who basically like runs the team,
Hmm.
who is very, very into it. Um, if they sell the team, or if she sells the team, that would remove him. And she cares about him and kind of like remembering her brother through him. And he would not have anything to do if they sold the team. I don't think she's been a bad owner. So I do think that Neil O'Shea is largely to blame for this. But I think Dame has a little bit in this too. I know he
Well, I
is
think
like
it's
everybody's
everybody.
favorite. I think he's everybody's favorite son in Portland, or certainly was, and understandably, he is not the greatest Blazer ever. That's silliness.
Who
But
is Walton?
Mike Drexler,
Walton won.
Walton won a title, but he was only there a couple of years, and
Yeah.
he was the best player in the world for like 18 months, maybe, when they
Yeah.
won a title, and he was hurt the rest of the time and wasn't there very long.
One of my saddest moments ever was we were my so I'm 7 years older than my middle brother. It's like six
Mm-hmm.
and change or something like that. And we were there. So his team was the last year that the big high school tournament in Vegas had high school teams and AAU teams together. After his senior year, it became just
Really?
AAU
Yeah,
teams.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
When I was in high school, right, we were a high school team. We were a good high school team, and we played against AAU teams. And that's
You
when
played
like
against
the
where did all the best high school players were playing AAU. So how did they like? Didn't the best players play AAU and play
well,
against their
we
schools?
were
How did
one
you
of
do
those
that?
like we were one of those weird good high school teams that didn't have any like elite high school talent, you know. So we were just like
Not
a
you specifically, but like conceptually, who's
well, no. So what I mean though is that like we didn't have anybody who was playing for their AAU teams because their AAU team was no better than like they would have gotten no more eyes on them than playing for their high school team did.
okay? I would imagine
So
that's the exception, though.
we no, like I said, we were the rare one. We
Yeah,
were
yeah.
like a really we were an old high
No,
school
what I mean
team.
is about other high schools. Like, what were other high schools doing that were losing their losing their best players to AAU, and then like
They were
having to
losing
play
a
against?
lot in
Yeah, that doesn't make
Vegas,
much
is
sense.
what
But
they were
okay,
doing.
sure. That's weird. The high
So
school teams playing against AAU teams is strange to me. But go ahead.
it was weird. It was fun. Like you know, we played. So we I played against players that I would not have been playing against otherwise. So it was fun. It was terrifying and all of that
Against
stuff.
Darren Collison giving you the work.
We lost to Darren Collison's Etowanda in the quarterfinals of CIF, and then he went and lost to Taft, which had Jordan Farmar in the semis, or either semis and finals or whatever it was. But yeah. Anyway, so talking about my little brother, and his team was out there, and after one of his games, one of his teammates' dads, who I eventually worked for when I worked in PR, his name was John Christensen, and he did PR for the Clyde Drexler Blazers, and he did PR for the Dream Team and stuff like that. And he comes up and he goes, "Hey kids, like who all wants to meet Clyde Drexler?" And all of the kids were like, "Who?" And I was just like,
Wait, when is this?
"Oh my god!"
Like,
This
what
would
year
have
is
been,
this?
I think so. I graduated '04. Andrew probably graduated in 2011. So this was either 2010 or 2011.
Oh, yeah. I mean, by that time, he'd
Yeah.
been out of the league 15 years, or not 15.
Yeah, sure, but it's still like he played for the dream team. Like this drove me nuts about drives me nuts about like current. You have all these kids who were getting drafted who were saying like Paul George is the greatest player of all time. Fuck
Well,
off.
no,
In
that
whose
was very
world?
specific. Brandon Miller did that. The reason why he did that is
There was
because
like a couple of them.
people were comparing his game to PG. So that's why he was like, well, if I'm him, then he's got to be the
No,
best. If people,
I want kids to know their history.
all right, so
Damn it.
the
Freaking
greatest Blazer of all time is not
whippersnappers.
Dame. The greatest Blazer of all time is Joel Prisbilla.
Yeah, fair.
He leads all-time leader in field goal percentage in team history.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe Hassan Whiteside has passed him. He was like Hassan Whiteside was like 92 for 140 as a Blazer.
And field goal percentage against him.
Not Joel. So back to Dame. Like I think there's plenty of blame to go around here. Most of it I would put on the team building aspect of it. I would put it on the front office and management as opposed to ownership. But Dame has to wear a lot of, like I said this on Twitter, I don't know, maybe a week ago, maybe 10 days ago. Like I get it, Dame, but like is at some point, like does Dame have to take any responsibility for we couldn't build a winner while I'm here because you've been the worst defensive player or a bottom 5 defensive player in the league for basically your entire career? Like some of the reason why the Blazers can't build a winner is because Dame won't guard anybody.
Yeah. Well, we saw it some when he was on Team USA, and they struggled a little bit initially because they keep playing him next to like other offensively talented players. But they were like, "Ooh, actually, if Dame's out there, we probably need a defender there next to him." And yeah, like, and this is part of like I was I again like I taught. It's my favorite thing to do in Vegas, just like walk around the arena. Like I'll go to the game. I'll watch the Lakers game and then I'll just walk around that like circle
Concourse.
at
Yeah, the concourse.
the concourse area. So I'll just walk around there and you'll never know who you're going to bump into and stuff. And
Who was your favorite sighting? Favorite person that you hadn't met or like favorite, oh wow, this is cool, this is summer league moment. I mean, you've done it a bunch, but
well, I hadn't met Jovan in person.
yeah, there you go.
So
People
like
see him.
well, because we went to that party Sunday night, which
Yeah.
was a mistake because I flew out early Monday morning.
No, they shut that thing down early.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
my last call was like at 12:15. I'm like, in Vegas? What are we doing here?
It was for the best. It was for the best. I also like, you know,
No, it wasn't.
I got to meet, well, for me personally, it was for the best. I got to meet like Josiah is somebody who has like been on the show before and I've always like kind of wanted to just like, you know, talk to in person.
Oh, have
so
you
it
not
was
met
like,
him in person? Oh, that's
I hadn't
yeah,
before.
that's
Like
cool.
I
Yeah,
moved away from LA.
that's why
So
summer league is cool. Yeah.
yeah. But, and like the weirdest part was that like people were like excited to meet me. Like that was the weird, like that's like when I go up and I say like, "Hey man, I'm so and so," and they're like, "Fuck you!" Like you don't have to introduce yourself. I'm like I do, I very much do. I feel like I do, but yeah, like you know, you walk around and there was that one bar. It was like the biggest bar in the concourse area, and that I think was where
right
the most people just kind of like
just
like
outside
204.
of 104. Yeah.
Yeah, 104. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time there.
So that's where, but I think that's where I ran into the most people and spent the most time was just like up there because like there were some extra tables and stuff. And yeah, we were talking, the subject of Dame and the subject of Harden came up, not just like with team personnel who like you can understand their takes, but actually agents, like other agents out there and other representatives from agencies were there. And they were all like pissed because Dame being this hyper specific with his trade requests, and James Harden requesting trades 3 different times in 2 fucking seasons or whatever it is. You have so many people who are just like they swear like they're held up, at like like the worst examples of labor standings for anybody, and it's just like it's just not the case. It just is not the case. And when people are trying to say, well, how can you hold these guys against their will and make them play for organizations they don't want to play for? It's like, do you not understand how like 99% of the rest of the world operates? Like,
no,
everybody,
well, look, everybody's allowed to go work wherever they want.
Yeah.
Unless you have a contract.
Right.
Like Dame gave up his freedom to go play wherever he wants to play. He has the right to play anywhere he wants, to live wherever he wants and play for whoever he wants when he's a free agent.
Every time I get somebody saying like, gosh, how could you possibly, force these guys to, be in trade rumors and all this stuff? And it's like,
that's what the money is for.
My favorite scene in Mad Men is when you scream. You haven't seen it. It is very white, but it's like the point of it. But they
I know they drink a lot of
it's a timepiece.
I know they drink. It's like the 50s, right? I know they drink a lot of scotch and wear suits and like have weird, possibly misogynistic, like
not possibly. Yeah.
I don't know the
show. But they in that scene, in the scene what we're that I just played a clip of there.
That's what the name is for, yeah.
I think her name is Peggy. Peggy comes up to her and she's just like, I just want some gratitude for some of the ideas that I have. No, she starts as a secretary, actually works her way up to being a writer and stuff. The show is very good if you look at it through the perspective of the women as the protagonists and the men as the antagonists. It's actually really good. But Peggy comes up to her, Peggy Olson, there it is, comes up to Dawn and they have like a back and forth and she's just like, I just want to thank you. I just when I have a good idea and it gets used, would it kill you to say thank you? And he screams, that's what the money is for, but like it's kind of the situation here with these NBA players. It's like, man, how can you expect these guys to live like this where like at a drop of a hat they have to play for a different city, they have to move to a different city? It's like their move is comped. Their life is paid for. They get to retire by the time they're 32. And like, yeah, there's a downside to some of this stuff. And this notion that like NBA superstars are like some symbol for labor and management negotiations and stuff. It's like, it's not true, man. Like LeBron had Lonzo and Ingram and Hart and Nance and that entire roster wondering if they were going to be Lakers by the end of the season and certainly beyond that season. And so like
in Indiana, LeBron's going to trade you when he was at the free throw line was actually pretty funny.
Right.
It was pretty funny.
It was also true.
Not gonna lie. It was pretty funny. Pretty funny.
And so like this and right now the notion that like Portland owes it to Dame to send him to Miami. No, they don't owe him shit, man. They owe him the $60 million that he is slated to make for the next 4 years, and that's it. Like,
so I'm mostly there with you. I think that,
and certainly, and Dame is the only player who you can make a case for and say like that guy is owed something because of everything he's given Portland.
No, he's not the only player. He's just the only player that maybe
I'm willing to listen to
for that is also like requested to leave.
Well, but no, because
he's not the only player. You're gonna tell me Steph couldn't make that argument, or Clay, or Draymond, or Giannis.
What I mean, yeah, all right, fair. What I mean is like in this current crop of players who keep on either getting traded or like getting asked to traded. Yeah, is like Philly, the city of Philadelphia owns James Harden. Anything? What?
The city that was a little Freudian slip there. The city of Philadelphia owns James Harden. Okay.
Owes.
You said owns, but
I meant owes. But like
we do call them owners. By the way, the people that run the team. We do call them owners.
I liked how they tried to say like, no, we're governors. And it's like,
which is
no,
fraud.
You're not.
Call it fraud. So I think everybody. All three entities here, the Blazers, Dame, and Miami, none of them come across particularly. None of them have covered themselves in glory through this process. Let's say that.
No.
I do not think it's fair for Dame to have one team on his list. I do think Portland owes Dame more than just like insert player X, but they also owe it to themselves to get the best deal that they can. So what I was saying,
and
about
also
this,
like, at what point do we talk about what the fans are owed? Like, if I'm a Portland Trailblazers fan,
the fans are owed the Blazers getting the best deal that they can.
Right.
And Miami fans are owed them getting the best deal that they can. Dame, to me, the only responsibility that I think Portland, like their moral obligation to Dame, is I'm not with the one team shit. I'm just not with it. I think that they owe it, if you want to call it. I think they owe it to Dame to just not send him to basketball Siberia. But Detroit. I do think that now look, I think if like deals are like, if it's a coin flip, which one is better, then I think they should send him where he wants to go.
Sure.
Outside of that, I think that they should get the best deal that they can while not sending him to Charlotte or wherever. It doesn't, pick a team that just has no chance. I think they owe it to him to send him somewhere where he has a chance. I don't think he should get to pick his destination. If he had 5 or 7 teams on his list, I would say make one of those deals work. I would say find the best deal you can out of those 5 or 7 and make it work. One team, and his agent, which this is what his agent should do. If his client wants to go to Miami and only Miami, he should be calling other teams and scaring them off. That's what he should do.
Mm-hmm.
Dame, I don't love it from, because he's trying to take advantage of all that goodwill. I agree completely. That's what it is to me. If deals are like, if it's 51-49, which one's better, then send him to Miami. But that clearly isn't the case yet, or he'd already be in Miami. Portland clearly doesn't want Tyler Hero. I think Miami's deal is getting the quality of Miami's deal is getting kind of understated. I think Miami's deal is fine. I don't love it for Portland. But if Miami is able to change the protections with OKC and get the first round pick to send them, and they have some swaps. How about this? I think Miami's best deal is kind of being undersold at how decent it is. It's not great, but it's decent.
We don't know that they've offered their best deal yet.
We don't know that they've offered their best deal. That's part of it.
I'm told they haven't.
Portland clearly has no interest in Tyler Hero, nor should they. So it's going to require a third team. If somebody else will give them a first round pick for Tyler Hero, and that can be included instead of Tyler Hero, then maybe you do the deal with Lowry as the salary. The other complicating part of this is Portland clearly wants somebody to take Nurkic's money along with Dame, which then the Hero salary piece is just not nearly enough. So I think there's a lot of moving parts here, but I agree. They owe Dame more than the average, just insert player X, but there's also very interesting leverage here, right? Like these guys who want to exert their leverage and ask out and name their destination generally don't have 4 years left on their deal. They have, AD kind of did this and pretty much said it's the Lakers or nobody. AD was going into his final year, right? When he started all of this, he had a year and a half left on his deal. Harden, and Kyrie, these guys have been coming up on their contracts, so they can exert more leverage. Teams are going to be scared off because if you trade me somewhere I don't want, then I'm just not re-signing, and too bad. Pascal Siakam has made those overtures about this. It scared some teams off. The only other kind of analogous thing is KD. KD had 4 years left when he in Brooklyn when he first started. In the first time he made this demand, right, and then the second time, and he ended up getting traded exactly where he wanted to go. Phoenix, that was the team he wanted to go to, and he ended up going there. The difference, though, is... Which,
by the way, is how this is going to wind up playing out anyway. Dame is going to be in Miami, and James is going to be in with the Clippers.
The difference, though, is for all the wonderful things about Dame, and Dame's an all-time great, top 75 player, even though he shouldn't have been. He made the top 75.
Mm-hmm.
He's older than KD, or like about similar age. He's a small guard. Those guys don't age well. And frankly, Dame ain't KD. KD
Yeah.
is a top 12 player ever, or 15, or whatever you want to call it. And is still that. Now, Dame's a fantastic player, but still, he had one of the best offensive seasons in the history of the NBA last year. But he ain't KD.
Yeah.
And so I think this is going to be, and a lot of teams are looking at this as kind of an interesting test case about that. It's a little different because Dame has the goodwill of the city, and so that's another piece of it. But like, I think Dame probably ends up in Miami. But if Portland and Joe Cronin, who I like a lot, decides, you know what, fuck this. No, we're taking a stand here. We're not trading you until we get the deal we want. Like, what is Dame going to do?
Yeah.
Is he going to sit out? I doubt it. What if he gets traded somewhere he doesn't want to go? Like, is he going to sit out? I doubt it. So I think this is going to be an interesting test case, and people around the league are looking at that. The other reason why people are irritated around the league about this is because and even some agents are irritated about this, is because it's holding up the business.
Yeah.
Like, you're asking, like, when are the Lakers going to sign a big man, a 14th guy? Like, what is going on here? The answer to that is probably when all this other shit gets figured out, because guys around the league are waiting and looking to see what rosters look like, what playing time looks like. Will anybody actually have a little bit more than the minimum? That kind of thing. I was surprised that Saric signed with the Warriors. I was surprised he signed with the Warriors when he did. It was always likely he was going to the Warriors, but I thought he was going to wait a little longer to see how all of this stuff, the Harden stuff, the Dame stuff, shakes out, because those can be like fundamental shifts in power to the league in general. So that's another reason why when you were talking with people at the bar at 104 on the concourse, that everybody's like kind of frustrated by this, is because it's holding up player movement around the league for all the rest of the free agents, and also like some other guys that would like to be on the move, and some other things that teams would like to do, some other smaller trades that teams would like to make. They just they're not doing it because business is being held up.
Right. And that's that brings us back to the point that I made at the very beginning, right? Is that like looking at these guys as just labor isn't telling the whole story, because these guys, 2 guys right now, are holding up the entirety of the league, and like for as empowered as Dame might feel right now, how empowered does Tyler Hero feel, where he signs this deal, he plays his ass off in the bubble, signs this deal, helps get that team to the finals in the bubble, works his ass off to try to get back and play in these playoffs despite a broken hand.
His team is better and gets to the finals.
Well, there's also that.
You could argue because he wasn't there.
And that's why he isn't as empowered as Dame, right? Is because your talent again, and what you do.
You make the same argument for Tyler Hero that you just made. Like, that's what the money is for. Too bad.
I know. That's
why but let's not cry any tears for Tyler Hero.
I'm not. What I'm saying though is that, like, if we're going to talk about, like, if we're going to try to make this just a labor versus management thing, right? Where it's Jody Allen versus Damian Lillard right now, then that's ignoring the other aspects of the story, right? Like, if it's Jody Allen versus Damian Lillard, where does Yusuf Nurkic fit in this? Where his salary is trying to be moved too, and he has zero say in how all of this goes. And I'm not saying that he should. I'm not saying he should have say in it. I'm just saying that, like, this notion of empowerment is only specifically given out to, like, this certain number of players, and everybody else who doesn't have that empowerment, to me, those players who don't have that empowerment, that's the labor. Those are the players that should be.
Tyler Hero could do the same thing. He could do the same thing as Dame. There's 3 ways you can make. There's 3 ways you can build a team. Not to the same effect, but my point is, there's 3 ways you can build a team. Right?
If Portland trades for me, I am not showing up. Could you imagine? Oh man, I want it to happen.
He could. So there's 3 ways to build a team. Right?
Portland be like, good. We don't want you.
There's the draft.
Please don't show up. We don't want to pay you.
There's the draft, free agency, and trades. Those are the 3 ways you can make your team better.
Yeah.
And we have seen a shift in how useful or how powerful those things are over the last handful of years. There isn't free agency anymore for the most part. Guys just like the guys that can really make money, they just stay with their team, right? Because you get the most money staying with your team, you get the most money staying with your team, and then you figure it out later. Free agency barely exists anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it exists, but like not really. Guys just say, I don't care. I'm signing. I'll get the money, and then I'll go wherever I want to go or try to go wherever I want to go.
By the way, my hottest take that I didn't.
You signed for 30, whatever, 120 over 4 years. Like
we're about to see it with Jaylen Brown. He's going to get his extension, and 48 hours later, we're going to start getting trade whispers about Jaylen Brown. That's how it's going to go down.
I mean, maybe. Probably. I think he's getting all the money. Right.
By the way,
Jalen's going to sign, I think, the biggest contract in NBA history here coming up.
Yeah, it's crazy giving that contract to a guy who can't dribble with his left hand.
Why hasn't it happened yet?
So
Magic Johnson that can't dribble with his left hand. Jalen is better than Magic Johnson with his left hand. Jalen just can't dribble at all, really. He's still better than Magic with his left hand, though. And of course, Jalen can dribble, just not good.
I didn't unleash this take out there quite yet because I'm still kind of.
Do we want to run this through Slack right quick to make sure we're going to do it live?
Well, we're at the very end of the show. This is what we're going to do. We're at the very end of the show, and I want people to think about this and then come back to me the next time you and I talk.
But no, we have something else to argue about, or not argue about.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So before we get to that, my hottest take that I think I've ever had. You ready?
Please, what? No, I'm not ready for your hottest take ever. No, I am not ready.
I think the NBA needs to do away with extensions. They aren't working. That's it. Like if these guys actually want to, if they want the empowerment that they want, cool, be free agents. But this notion of like signing an extension and before it even kicks in, you're demanding trades. Fuck off. That's not how contracts work.
So I think the extension, they've changed the extension rules, obviously. And most guys, if you can really make a bunch of money, won't sign the extension because what they could get in an extension, now it's closer. But what they could get in extension is not the same as what they could get on a new deal with their team. I argued with somebody about this, or a bunch of people about this, and they told me it was just semantics on Twitter. This was months and months and months and months ago. Mm-hmm. And I was very frustrated because don't conflate. Most people think of an extension as just if you stay with the same team, it's an extension, and that's not the case. An extension is built on your previous contract, and a new contract requires free agency, and then you can re-sign. That is not an extension. I think extensions are necessary, and teams like being able to extend guys. But there has been, the Players Association will never go for this.
No.
But I do think I
don't even think teams would necessarily go for it either because extensions allow them to get something when these.
No. I think no. I think teams want to be able to extend guys.
Yeah.
Because the highest paid guys, they can do it for less money than they would in a new contract, right? Because it used to be you could only extend for 120% of your previous salary. Now, or the salary in the final year of your deal. Now it's 140%, which gets guys a lot closer. It's why Jaylen Brown wouldn't sign an extension before, because he's going to be able to make a lot more money. I think it'll be interesting in August when the Lakers have an opportunity to extend AD. Does that make financial sense for AD? I don't know. The thing that the thing that the Players Association won't go for, and there's been talk about this around the league, to combat what you're talking about, is there is like, if you request a trade or if you demand a trade, that there's like some financial penalty, or if you get traded. See, the Players Association just won't have that. One reason why that's fraught, to use that word again, is that then do teams like punitively trade guys just so they lose money, and then you have to adjudicate whether or not they asked for it, or things like that. And then guys like would never publicly ask for a trade, but they behind the scenes ask for a trade, which is how it used to be anyway. So I don't know what to do about. I don't know that there's anything that you can do about this.
I think the cat's kind of out of the bag, but I do think that like players extending All right, so you use the example of like, would a team ever trade a player to make sure that player makes less, or to pay that player less, right?
No, I mean they wouldn't be if they traded him. They wouldn't be paying him less.
Right.
But what I'm saying is it could be used as a negotiating chip, not with the player, but with other teams. Well, you got to give us a little more for player X than you would otherwise, because once we trade him, he's going to be making less.
Yeah.
Because if you get traded in the first year of your new deal, then it's you lose whatever 20%, and if you get traded in the second year, 15, the third year, 10,
Right.
whatever.
But
So I think teams could use that as like, oh well, like he's worth more to you than he is to us because he's going to be making less with you because he asked for a trade.
yeah, and I think that is the other side of the coin to players signing an extent. Like, I'm going to be careful. No, I'm not going to be careful. Jaylen Brown has no interest in continuing to play basketball in Boston. He hates it in Boston. He's said it vocally, like he has said it out there publicly. He is always the subject of trade talks and trade rumors every time they're trying to find
maybe that's
Jason
part
Tatum
of
more.
why he doesn't love it.
Right. That's what I'm saying, is that like there's a variety of reasons here, and so like Jaylen Brown is going to sign that extension, and in this case, I really get it, because like the players who sign their extensions and say like I'm a Heat lifer, I'm a so and so lifer and stuff like that, and then immediately like 6 months later asked to be traded. That's where I kind of roll my eyes a little bit. In this case here with Jaylen, I kind of get it. He's going to get his money here and immediately ask for a trade. But it still flies.
You also kind of get it because this is painful for the Celtics. So that's another little piece of why
it helps.
Time specifically.
But like, so like it was my favorite. So I kept bumping into some like to Celtics people, and I kept saying like, man, I really hate to say it, and I was like the twinkle in my eye as I was hating to say it, but I really think the Celtics got worse this year, and they were like, you're such an ass. But
maybe.
So anyway, so like in this case though, like what Jaylen is about to do, where he is pushing to get as much money as he possibly, totally fine. He's pushing to get as much money as he can possibly get from Boston. And as soon as that, like before that ink is even dry, like somebody's going to be like, putting air on the ink to make sure it dries and doesn't smudge all over the paper.
Like a Polaroid?
Yeah. No. Like, cause it's not, it's not hygienic to like actually blow on stuff anymore. So like people actually use their hands.
Wait, it's not hygienic anymore? Was it before? No.
Well, it's like not considered. Like it's
weren't
not
as concerned.
Right. Yeah. Like when there's like an office birthday cake, people like wave the candles out.
You don't blow on the candles. Don't blow the candles out.
Yeah. So like when people are waving on the contract to dry the ink, but as they are doing that, Jaylen is going to be telling his agent, "All right, now get me out of here. Get me out. I don't want to be here anymore." Like that's how this is going to play out. And again, I get it, but it's also not like how extensions work. Like it's not how contracts
work. It very
work.
Specifically is how extensions work and contracts work in the NBA.
Well, sure, but like in terms of like, all right, so I guess the difference here would be like with Dame when he says, "I only want to go to the Miami Heat," and that is it. Like when you sign your extension and then you say, "I only want to play for the Heat," that is not how contracts work. Like, I'm sorry, when you sign a contract with the Portland Trailblazers, you are signing to play with the Portland Trailblazers. You weren't signing to play with the Heat. Like that's not what. And so like
kind of like your contract technically is with the NBA.
The NBA, fine.
So kind of. You were committing to play in the NBA for that amount of years and that amount of money. The team that you are signed the contract with has your rights for that long until they decide to trade them. And I do think that what is it? I always am making fun of white people stuff. I'm going to use a white people stuff phrase. I think that I don't even really know what it means, or I'm going to probably get it wrong. But
I can't wait what this is.
What is it, like the horse is out of the barn or something like that? Like what? I think the horse is already out of the barn, like at this point. With
the cat's out, the cat's out of the bag is the easier one because
the cat's out of the bag means that like
you can't put the cat back in the bag.
No. The cat's out of the bag means like the secret has already been.
Or the
The horses out of the barn means
the
like
toothpaste out of the tube. Like you can't put
sure. There you go. Yeah. See, like
All right.
the toothpaste is out of the tube is one of those ones like you can't reverse this. Like we're too far
Yeah.
gone at this point. Like or that ship has sailed. I'll give you that one.
There you go.
The last couple of weeks, I don't know if I should have used that one. You know what I said? See there, I should have
That
said
sub is launched.
You know what So I was interviewing. This was right after Tyson Chandler signed. Where were we? Sacramento, I think. Wherever our first road game was after TC signed, and so I had him on the show, the podcast, and he was talking about like how quickly he left. He drove from I don't even remember where he was, Phoenix, I think he was, and then came to the Lakers. He got bought out, came to the Lakers. And by the way, blocked a shot in his first game. His first game was at home, blocked a shot with like 0 seconds.
Played really well. Yeah.
It was probably goaltending, but didn't get called. So he was telling me about how he drove from Phoenix to LA and just like threw shit in his car and drove to LA. Whatever. We'll get the rest of the stuff later. And so I'm talking to him. I believe it was in Sacramento. But so I'm talking to him at the hotel, interviewing him for the show. And I was like, what I wanted to know was like, what were the things?
Made hundreds of millions of dollars. Go to the airport. What are you doing driving 7 hours?
I don't remember. I don't know. But he definitely like threw shit in his car and drove.
Okay.
I don't know. Tyson's the best. TC's the best. Anyway, so what I was trying to the question I was trying to ask was like, what is the stuff that's like most important to you? Like if you were rushing and just threw shit in your car, like what did you have to make sure was in there? And I decided to ask it like, oh, if your house is on fire, like what are the things that you're grabbing, right? Mm-hmm. Which is like a normal phrase that people use.
Yeah.
Like, what is the most important stuff? What did you have to have? The problem was that was like during the height of like California wildfires. People were getting evacuated because their house was actually on fire. Mm-hmm. And so I was listening back to it. And somebody pointed it out to me, like Lakers PR, who was like kind of around the interview, pointed it out to me. I was like, yeah, I'm going to need to edit that out because that is not like, that is tone deaf for like right now. But it was like a random phrase that people use to convey the question I was asking. I don't remember his answer, but so I probably, that ship has sailed is probably not the best way to, it's not the best phrase to use for like, we're too far gone at this point. But anyway, I think we are too far gone about doing anything about this. And guys are going to get their money and the league has had to adjust. Teams have had to adjust because I don't know how we've crossed the Rubicon. There's another one. How about I use that? Yeah. I don't think we can get back there.
Or what else? There was another thing you wanted to argue
last night on All Access Lakers, we got into a huge argument, and it's about Dame, or like it relates to Dame. We were talking about Dame. Actually, we were talking about. I was asking. So obviously, the Warriors are the team of my youth, and I was asking. So Shub said that he was like not a huge Pat Bev fan until he was on the Lakers, and then you root for your guy for 2 months, and then
you try.
Yeah,
you try.
So I was asking for his advice and Raj's advice. Obviously, I follow the Warriors very closely outside of the Lakers. My least favorite player in the NBA is Chris Paul. And a lot of my fandom around the NBA is based on Chris Paul not winning a title.
Yeah.
And now, like, I have to sort of...
Yeah.
When I'm watching, like, Warriors games, I kind of, like, have to not hate Chris Paul, I guess.
Yeah.
So I was asking everybody in the chat and asking Shub and Raj who their least favorite players were. Raj's answer, which is absurd, is Tobias Harris, which I just don't understand because Tobias Harris is like just the most like vanilla. He's like kind of good. Like
why does he hate Tobias Harris?
I don't know. He just like he's like, will you swing the ball once? He's just like he's like offended by his game. For some reason. I don't know why. And so Shub said Klay Thompson is his least favorite player, which is another absurd answer. That's crazy. Is even worse.
Yeah.
Like, among players, Klay Thompson is like the most universally liked guy in the league. So it's just absurd. And he went on to be like, he's not a star. He's not that good. He's like, which is just
a product of the environment.
Yeah. Which you can't separate. So which is an absurd argument. So I was like, well, he's like, should have been top 75. And so, which he was not. He was like 77. Oh, Ben Simmons is a fine answer.
That's a good one.
That's a fine answer. That would have been fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Harden is a fine answer. Chris Paul is a fine answer.
Yeah.
Like for Lakers fans, if you want to say Russell Westbrook, I would understand. Like those are all like reasonable answers. Klay Thompson is not. And so he was just diminishing his game. Like he's never been a star. He's never like even been that good. And so, and he wasn't top 70. I said, well, he should have been top 75. Obviously, he's the second best shooter ever. He's going to the Hall of Fame, all of this. And so we got into an argument about the careers of Dame and Klay Thompson. And I feel that it is absurd because Dame was in the top 75. Shouldn't have been, but was. Damn good player.
So you would swap those two?
I mean, there's other guys that I would put in instead of Dame also. But Klay, we got into a 20-minute argument about whether Klay has had a better career than Dame. And people were telling me Kyrie has had a better career than Klay also, which is absurd. Is Dame's peak higher than Klay's? Yes, fine. But are we not considering defense here?
Well, that's
are we not considering career accomplishments?
A lot of times we don't. But like team accomplishments for some reason get ignored in basketball, even though it's a team sport. But like, if I had to choose between the careers of Dame and Klay, I would probably choose Dame's because he's going to wind up making like $600 million.
I mean,
but
Klay's made a lot of money.
Yeah,
no, it's not who you would rather be. Fine, because that's like you want the most money. Like championships matter more or less to people. That was the ridiculous argument the other day. Was like, would you rather have the career of Robert Horry or Melo?
Well, so all right, that one's not really fair though, too, because like Robert Horry played at a time where that like $7 million was like a high contract back then, and like now, like if Robert Horry played in this career, like in this CBA with this kind of earning potential, I think Robert Horry would probably wind up making $200 million over the course of his career,
Maybe.
Like 150, 200 mil is what I would say he probably makes. How long did he play in the league? Like 16 years.
Yeah.
So,
7 titles.
Yeah, I would say that I would probably choose Horry's modern career over James Harden's, but I think that's because like James Harden is seen as a joke.
No,
like,
it wasn't. It was Melo, but whatever. It's similar.
But like James Harden, like Melo's different, right? Because he tried to do like the team first thing, and he tried to be the 3-and-D wing and do that stuff. So
Melo did?
Like he gets a little bit more respect. Yeah, like Melo came off of the bench and
he
tried.
Was the dude who said his career was over. Then he was the dude when they were like, "Oh, are you going to come off the bench?" He was like, "Me."
Right, but then he figured out, like, the league told him, yeah, you.
Yes. Well, Melo did not try the team first thing. He wanted to get out and got traded to the Knicks when he could have just waited a couple months and signed there and gutted.
Right, he was actually the first player who like took earning potential over team-wide talent. Right,
he's like, I want to be where I want to be, so I can sign my new contract.
And I want my bird rights when I go there. But so I.
So the question is like whose career would you rather have? It was who was better career. No.
Yeah, I think
who's had a better career.
Yeah, I think it's probably Klay. Because like I think winning really matters and I think defense really matters.
It's not Robert Horry, who was just like a guy on a bunch of championship teams and moved around.
Although I think we don't give Horry enough credit. Like I think it's not necessarily, and this is Adam Modest's take, and I'm going to steal it, but like, I think a big part of the reason why Robert Horry has the 7 championships that he does is because he provided spacing at a time when we didn't understand the concept of spacing at that position.
Robert Horry as a player is underrated. I agree with that.
Yeah, well, but that specific thing that he did at that position was actually really valuable, and I don't think it's like he provided space and size for Tim Duncan. He provided space and size for Shaq.
Yes.
And I think like that is something that like he has those 7 championships because he did things that clearly really mattered in a modern NBA before we recognized that they mattered. But yeah, I think When it comes to like you rooting for Chris Paul or because I didn't even hate Russ before he showed up. I disliked him while he was a Laker. I didn't like watching him play while he was a Laker, but I didn't like hate Russell Westbrook's game. I thought that there was some empty calories there, but I didn't like hate his game. It'd be different with Chris Paul, and it was different with Patrick Beverley. I hate Patrick Beverley's game with a fiery passion. I hate all the grifting. I hate the dirty stuff. I hate that, like, if somebody does something dirty to him, it's a crime. I just, Chris Paul, same stuff. James Harden, all the insurance fraud, and Trae Young, same stuff. Like, I can't wait to have those guys have flops called against them and turned into technical fouls. But like, yeah, I don't know how I would have, because there was like a hot minute where we thought maybe Chris Paul would be a Laker, and
but that was 10 years ago.
No. Like this offseason, there was like a hot minute when he got traded and he might get bought out and stuff like that. That like maybe the Lakers thought they were getting him, and I would have had to go back and delete a lot of tweets because I cannot stand Chris Paul, the basketball player. I don't know him, the person, so I'm not going to go far and that far and talk about him, the person. But Chris Paul, the basketball player, all of the grifting, he's a terrible teammate. He's just the dirty stuff. He gets away with so much shit just because he's nice to the media. You know, like I remember he was out. He was like hurt for a playoff game. Shocker. And who's the guy from PTI? Wilbon did like the post game show, and the Suns had just won a playoff game without Chris Paul, and he was like, "This win right here was because Chris Paul is a Phoenix Sun," and it's like he didn't fucking play. What? Huh? What? You know how? What are we doing here? And so like yeah, it's all of that stuff. I don't know. For me personally, if I were you, having to like see nice things happen for Chris Paul, I think I'd take a year off.
So I think here's what I'm left with. I'll run this by you, but here's what I'm left with. And by the way, Klay Thompson has had a much better career than Dame and should be in the top 75, and Dame should.
I don't know.
Also, Dwight Howard should be in the top 75 too, but that's another conversation.
Yeah.
So here's what I think I'm left with on the Chris Paul thing. Should the Lakers get eliminated, unfortunately, at some point, I think all I have left to root for is, because my fandom is Chris Paul doesn't win a title. That's like Chris Paul and James Harden. A lot of my fandom is based on those two dudes not winning a title.
Yeah.
So I guess all I have left is, if the Lakers are eliminated, rooting for the Warriors. And with the thought that Chris Paul couldn't do it without Steph. Like, until he had Steph, he couldn't do it. He needed Steph. Then I can be like, oh, okay, he's got a title, but he needed Steph.
Yeah.
Like, KD maybe needed Steph, or who knows? But I think all I have left is, like, even Chris Paul couldn't do it until he joined the Warriors. I think that's all I have.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what I would do there. I think there's a non-zero chance he gets traded again this year, though. So I think that's what
I agree wholeheartedly. So, I also think there are some definite. Yes, I agree with you, but I think there's also some definite like Russ possibly vibes. Like, wait, you want me to come off the bench? Like, I'm not doing that. Like, and it just doesn't like. An all-time great point guard who just comes in and thinks wants to do what he does, and
yeah, I don't, and they're gonna be so small. Like, if
he starts, they will be
Steph and Paul.
And by the way, if he finishes, they will be also.
Yeah, I mean, but that's like, yeah, whether you start or finish that way, like that's gonna.
Although to be fair, teams finish games a lot smaller than they start games generally.
Yeah, sure, but like, not the team that won the championship this year.
No, but the team that won the championship the year before.
Not the team that just knocked them out of the playoffs last year.
Also true, and the Lakers got bigger.
So yeah, I don't know how that's gonna I don't know how that's
It's
gonna
going to
work.
be
We've been
fascinating.
talking for an hour and a half, and my wife actually left for work, so I don't know what I'm walking out of my
Okay.
office to.
That's
So
one way to find out, brother.
this was fun. Again, this is a live edition of the Lakers Lounge. This is going to be, if you missed any of it, you can go back and rewatch it here on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and all of that good stuff. I guess we will really quickly answer this question. Sherry Sec, we did kind of mention that is the holdup here as it pertains to why the Lakers haven't added another center, or why Christian Wood, right?
Would, no S.
Yeah. I actually saw him on my way to the party on Sunday night.
Hmm.
Bump into him in the hallways of the Wynn. I asked him, "Where are you going to be playing next year?"
Did you
And
actually?
he said,